In the bustling heart of modern-day New Orleans, a city where vibrant urban life intertwines with ancient mystique, Leora emerged as a luminous yet unassuming figure amidst the shadows of legacy and ambition. By day, she dazzled audiences at local jazz clubs with her soulful dance moves, a talent that belied her humble origins. By night, however, her graceful movements became a ritual, a silent ode to the secrets that had long been hidden within her blood. Leora's life was marked by a quiet determination to transcend her past. Orphaned at a young age and raised in a modest home in the French Quarter, she had always felt that she was destined for something far greater. Unbeknownst to her, destiny had indeed been quietly weaving a narrative that stretched back generations, a narrative of power, passion, and a legacy steeped in both darkness and redemption. One sultry evening, as Leora practiced her routine in a secluded warehouse repurposed as a makeshift dance studio, a presence as commanding as it was enigmatic made itself known. Cassian, a man whose reputation as the formidable alpha of a secretive werewolf clan preceded him, stepped from the shadows. His piercing gaze, the deep intensity of his eyes, and the subtle yet unmistakable scent of wilderness stirred something unspoken within her. "Leora," he intoned with a calm authority that belied the storm beneath his words. "There is a destiny intertwined with yours, a legacy that demands recognition." At first her heart pounded in defiance. "Who are you to dictate fate?" she retorted, her voice quivering between indignation and intrigue. Cassian's smile was both tender and laden with sorrow. "I am Cassian," he revealed, "and for reasons you have yet to understand, you have been chosen to be my bride, a union that could heal old wounds and awaken dormant powers." Despite the initial shock, Leora sensed a profound magnetism. In his words, a blend of vulnerability and unwavering duty. The city around them buzzed with an unspoken energy, as if it too were a silent witness to the beginning of an age-old tale. Cassian's world was one where loyalty and betrayal danced on a razor's edge, where ancient traditions met the modern complexities of ambition and desire. In this intricate web, his decision to claim Leora was a strategic move to unite rival clans and to hide a secret that threatened to upend the delicate balance of power. That night, the duo embarked on a clandestine journey through the labyrinthine streets of New Orleans. As they navigated the neon-lit alleyways and historic courtyards, Cassian's guarded demeanor began to soften in the quiet intimacy of their conversation. He spoke of his burdens, the unyielding weight of expectations as the alpha, the unspoken tragedies of past betrayals, and the scars that time could never truly heal. "Every choice I make," he murmured, as they paused by the banks of the Mississippi River, "is tainted by the ghosts of those who came before me." Leora, whose life had been a mosaic of both luminous triumphs and heart-wrenching losses, listened intently. In her, she felt not only the echo of shared sorrow, but also the spark of defiant hope. "And what if I refuse this destiny?" she challenged, her eyes reflecting both the flickering streetlights and the inner fires of rebellion. "What if I choose my own path?" Cassian's reply was a soft yet unyielding whisper. "Then we both risk the collapse of all we hold dear, but sometimes destiny has a way of choosing for us." As the night deepened, so did the intensity of their connection. Their dialogue wove a tapestry of secrets and shared confessions, where every exchanged word was laden with meaning. In hushed tones, Cassian revealed that his decision to forcefully shield Leora from the scrutiny of rival clans was not merely political, it was personal. Her lineage, a hidden amalgam of mortal and supernatural essence, held the key to a power that could either mend the rift between warring factions or shatter their world irrevocably. In a dimly lit abandoned speakeasy on the outskirts of the city, a relic of an era long past, the pair found temporary refuge. The faded elegance of the room, with its cracked mirrors and broken chandeliers, mirrored the fractured histories of those who had inhabited it. Here, Cassian and Leora shared moments of vulnerability. Between whispered reassurances and tentative confessions, a fragile bond was formed. "I have carried a secret burden for far too long," Cassian confessed, as he traced a finger along, an old scar hidden beneath his tailored shirt. "The truth of my lineage is tied to the very roots of this land, and with it comes a destiny I never chose but must embrace. Leora, with her innate resilience and newfound curiosity, was drawn into the enigma of his world. Each revelation seemed to peel away the layers of her own guarded past, exposing raw wounds and dormant strengths. "I never believed I was anything more than a dancer in the shadows," she admitted softly, her voice a blend of regret and defiance. "But perhaps, in the echoes of your confession, I can finally find the courage to step into the light." As the first rays of dawn began to break through the stained glass windows of their secret haven, the pair found themselves on the precipice of an uncertain future. The city outside was awakening, oblivious to the dangerous currents swirling beneath its polished veneer. Rival clans, long hidden behind veils of secrecy and mistrust, had begun to stir in the distance. Whispers of dissent and the clashing of ancient rivalries promised that the road ahead would be fraught with peril. In those tender moments before the day's clamor resumed, Leora felt an overwhelming mix of trepidation and longing. Cassian's words echoed in her mind, a constant reminder that every choice carried the weight of both destiny and personal sacrifice. The narrative of their lives was being rewritten in real time, each heartbeat a testament to the power of secrets and the inevitability of redemption. Back in the heart of the city, the first stirrings of conflict were taking shape. A shadowy figure, cloaked in anonymity and driven by a long-held vendetta, watched the unfolding events from afar. This mysterious observer was the key to a betrayal that would soon shatter the fragile peace Cassian had fought so hard to maintain. In a discreet phone call in a secluded park, the figure whispered to an unseen accomplice, "It's time to awaken the past and let chaos reign." As the tension in the air grew palpable, Cassian and Leora remained blissfully unaware of the forces gathering on the periphery. Their budding connection, forged in the crucible of shared pain and hope, was about to be tested by the brutal reality of family loyalties and unyielding ambition. Leora's mind raced with questions about her own heritage, a lineage that she had only ever known as whispers and half-forgotten lullabies. Who were her true parents? What secrets lay hidden in the dusty ledgers of her family's past? And how would those revelations impact the precarious balance of power within the supernatural community? In a heartfelt exchange as they prepared to part ways for the day, Cassian spoke with a mix of resolve and regret. "Leora, I promise you, no matter what secrets the future unveils, you will never be alone in this fight. Together, we will challenge fate itself." Her eyes shimmered with determination as she replied, "I trust you, Cassian, but I must also trust in myself. I will uncover every hidden truth, even if it means facing the darkness within me." Their words lingered in the cool morning air. As they embraced, their fates irreversibly entwined by forces both visible and unseen. As Leora walked away into the awakening city, each step was a declaration of defiance against a destiny that had been forced upon her. The path ahead was fraught with peril, yet illuminated by the spark of hope and the promise of redemption. In that charged silence, a moment suspended between the past and the inevitable future, a single resonant truth emerged. The collision of love and legacy was as unpredictable as it was inevitable. Every heartbeat, every whispered secret, and every stolen glance between Cassian and Leora was the precursor to a storm that would soon envelop their world in chaos. The tension was nearly unbearable as shadows deepened, and alliances began to form in the hidden corners of the city. Questions without answers and prophecies yet to be fulfilled hung in the air like a promise of an impending reckoning. In the silence of that fateful morning, as light battled with the remnants of night, a solitary truth echoed in the distance, a truth that would change everything and bind their souls inextricably. The following days in New Orleans blurred together in a frenetic dance of revelation and trepidation. Leora's inner world, once a quiet sanctuary, now roared with the urgency of unspoken truths and the relentless pull of destiny. Every moment she spent with Cassian deepened the mystery of their intertwined fates, drawing her inexorably into a labyrinth of secrets that stretched back through the annals of time. In the days after that fateful dawn, Leora found herself oscillating between the vibrant pulse of the city and the shadowed corridors of her own memories. The rhythmic cadence of jazz and the lively chatter of street vendors provided a stark contrast to the haunting whispers of her past. Every whispered conversation in the dimly lit corners of old New Orleans hinted at hidden histories, of long-forgotten rituals, cursed legacies, and the fierce battles fought by supernatural beings in an era when myth and reality were one and the same. Late one evening, as the humid air pressed against the skin and the neon glow bathed the streets in surreal hues, Leora was summoned to a clandestine meeting. A trusted friend from her childhood, Mara, a woman whose stoic exterior belied a heart full of empathy and secrets, awaited her in a discreet courtyard hidden behind ivy-laden walls. "Leora," Mara began, her tone laced with urgency, "you must know the truth about your lineage. Your heritage is far more extraordinary than you ever imagined." Leora's eyes widened with a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. "Tell me everything, Mara. I've been questioning every piece of my past, every memory that doesn't fit," she implored, her voice trembling between anticipation and anxiety. Mara's gaze shifted as if she were about to divulge a confession that could shatter the very ground beneath them. "Your parents were not merely ordinary mortals. They were guardians of a sacred legacy, one that bridged the human world with the supernatural. Your blood carries the spark of an ancient covenant, one that has been hidden for generations to protect you from enemies who would exploit your power." The revelation struck Leora like a bolt of lightning. Memories of childhood lullabies, half-forgotten tales told by her ailing grandmother, and cryptic symbols etched in her family's heirlooms suddenly coalesced into a tapestry of identity. As Mara continued, she explained that a clandestine society, long dormant yet ever vigilant, had watched over Leora's family for centuries. Their mission was to preserve the fragile balance between worlds, a duty that had now fallen unexpectedly into Leora's reluctant hands. Meanwhile, Cassian grappled with his own inner demons. The weight of his responsibilities as Alpha was compounded by a profound sense of isolation, a loneliness that even his formidable presence could not mask. His nights were spent in restless brooding over a legacy tainted by betrayal. In a rare moment of vulnerability, he confided in his closest confidant, Darius, during a quiet stroll along the moonlit banks of the Mississippi. "Every decision I make, every alliance I forge is haunted by the memory of those who betrayed us," Cassian murmured, his voice heavy with regret. "And now, with Leora entwined in this web, the stakes have never been higher." Darius, ever the stoic and pragmatic advisor, responded with measured calm. "Your past is a chain that binds you, Cassian, but it also holds the key to unlocking a future where honor and redemption might yet prevail. You must trust in the strength that Leora brings to your world, the light that could banish the shadows of treachery." These private exchanges, laden with introspection, underscored a growing tension in the supernatural community. Rumors began circulating among the rival clans that Cassian's secret union with Leora was not a mere political maneuver, but a seismic shift in the ancient order. In hushed conversations in smoky back rooms and dimly lit taverns, murmurs of dissent and envy grew louder. The Council of Elders, a formidable assembly of werewolf leaders, assembled in a secluded estate, their eyes reflecting both hope and apprehension. Their discussion was terse and fraught with the understanding that every alliance was temporary in a world where loyalty could be as fleeting as a shadow at dusk. At the heart of this turbulent landscape, a daring plan was set into motion by those who viewed Cassian's union as a threat to their dominion. Under the guise of night, a faction led by a bitter former ally, Elias, began orchestrating a series of calculated moves designed to destabilize Cassian's reign. Elias, whose ambition had long been masked by charm and diplomacy, now revealed a darker, vengeful side. In a secret rendezvous in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city, he whispered to his co-conspirators, "The Alpha's bond with Leora is the weak link in our chain of power. If we can expose their secrets, our ascent will be inevitable." Back in her own world of introspection, Leora felt the gravity of the revelations shared by Mara. The secrets of her lineage were not merely personal. They were intrinsically linked to the fate of both human and supernatural realms. Each discovery peeled away another layer of her carefully constructed identity, revealing vulnerabilities and hidden strengths alike. She spent long hours poring over ancient manuscripts and family diaries that Mara had entrusted to her care. The fragile pages, yellowed with age, were filled with cryptic symbols and poetic verses that spoke of redemption, sacrifice, and a destiny that transcended mortal limitations. One particularly stormy night, as thunder rumbled in the distance and the rain drummed relentlessly on the cobblestone streets, Leora sought solace in the silent solitude of an old library nestled in the heart of the French Quarter. There, amongst the scent of aged paper and the soft murmur of the wind, she uncovered a passage that resonated deeply within her soul. In the shadows of betrayal lies the promise of redemption, for even the darkest night must yield to the light of a new dawn. This cryptic message, penned in a delicate hand that bore the unmistakable mark of her ancestry, ignited a spark of hope. It was as if the echoes of her forebears were urging her to rise above the scars of history and embrace a future defined by courage and unity. The intertwining destinies of Leora and Cassian grew ever more complex as they navigated a world on the brink of upheaval. Their clandestine meetings became charged with the duality of their existence, a fragile interlude, where passion and duty collided. In one such meeting at an opulent but secretive ballroom tucked away in a renovated mansion, Cassian and Leora found themselves surrounded by opulence and shadow. The room, filled with soft candlelight and the murmurs of influential figures from both supernatural and human circles, served as a crucible for their confessions. Cassian, his voice low and resolute, addressed Leora with a mixture of longing and despair. "Every beat of my heart is a reminder of what I have lost, and of what I must protect. This union is not merely a marriage of convenience. It is a binding force against the chaos that threatens to engulf us." His words, heavy with emotion, resonated with the assembled guests, many of whom harbored their own secrets and regrets. Leora, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, countered with an unwavering resolve. "I may have been thrust into this destiny against my will, but I choose to stand by you. Together we will confront the ghosts of the past and forge a future where truth and love prevail." Yet even as they vowed unity, the ominous presence of betrayal loomed large. Unbeknownst to them, Elias's machinations had already set events into motion that would shatter the fragile calm. In a discreet exchange of encrypted messages, Elias coordinated with several influential figures within the rival clans. Their objective was clear: to expose the hidden truths behind Leora's heritage and to cast doubt on Cassian's leadership, thereby inciting discord among the supernatural elites. As days turned into nights and back again, the tension escalated. Whispers of impending danger reached Leora through coded messages delivered by a mysterious courier. The note, scrawled in hurried script, warned her of a betrayal that was poised to upend everything she had come to believe. "Trust not the familiar face," it cautioned cryptically, "for loyalty can be as treacherous as the night itself." This message, ambiguous yet chilling, sent ripples of apprehension through her heart. She knew that every ally could harbor hidden motives, and every smile might conceal a dagger poised for her back. Determined to uncover the truth, Leora embarked on a solitary journey into the forgotten parts of the city, places where the remnants of the old world clashed with the stark reality of modernity. In a derelict mansion overtaken by ivy and time, she discovered a trove of relics that chronicled the struggles of her ancestors. Photographs, letters, and mysterious artifacts painted a portrait of a lineage marked by resilience and sacrifice. One faded photograph in particular caught her eye. A portrait of a young woman whose eyes sparkled with defiance and hope, a mirror of Leora's own soul. The inscription on its back read simply, "For the light that defies darkness." This discovery stirred a profound sense of connection within Leora, fueling her determination to confront the encroaching treachery. She sought out Mara once more, this time in the sanctuary of an old boathouse by the bayou. Over cups of bitter coffee and the soft murmur of water against weathered wood, Mara revealed more of the long-concealed history of Leora's family. "Your ancestors were revered not only for their power, but for their unyielding commitment to balance," Mara explained. "They understood that every act of betrayal sowed the seeds for eventual redemption. Now, That legacy calls to you, urging
you to reclaim your rightful place.
As Leora absorbed these revelations, the distance between her and Cassian narrowed further, forged by the shared burden of destiny. Their conversations took on a new urgency, as they strategized ways to counteract the looming threat orchestrated by Elias and his conspirators. Cassian's normally inscrutable expression softened as he confided, "I have always believed in the strength of our bond, yet this path we tread is fraught with peril. If we falter now, the consequences will echo for generations." His words, imbued with both passion and a deep-seated fear of failure, resonated with Leora. "Then let us stand together," she vowed, "for in unity lies our only hope against the tides of betrayal." However, the uneasy calm was destined to be shattered. As twilight descended one fateful evening, a meticulously planned ambush was set in motion. In the shadow of an old cathedral, as the congregation had long dispersed and the echoes of ancient hymns lingered in the cold night air, a group of masked assailants, agents of Elias, descended upon Cassian's private estate. The ensuing chaos was instantaneous and brutal. Guards clashed with intruders in a flurry of supernatural ferocity. The howls of werewolves mingled with the clatter of ancient relics and the panicked cries of those caught in the crossfire. In the midst of the turmoil, Cassian fought with a desperate intensity, his every movement a calculated effort to protect not only his home, but also the fragile promise of the future he envisioned with Leora. Amidst the tumult, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night, a sound that chilled the blood of all who heard it. Leora, who had been in a nearby safe house preparing for an urgent meeting with Mara, felt her heart seize at the echo of that cry. With scarcely a moment's hesitation, she raced through rain-slicked streets towards the source, her every step fueled by dread and determination. When she arrived, the scene that unfolded was one of devastation. In the courtyard of the estate, under the shroud of darkness, Cassian lay wounded, a stark testament to the ferocity of the ambush. His once implacable aura was replaced by a raw, painful vulnerability. "Leora," he managed to whisper, his voice a fragile thread connecting him to life. She knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she attempted to staunch the flow of blood and offer him comfort in the only way she knew how, with words imbued with unwavering devotion. "Hold on, Cassian," she pleaded, her eyes brimming with tears. "We will fight this together, no matter how deep the betrayal runs." In that heart-stopping moment, as the sounds of conflict receded into a haunting background murmur, the true extent of the conspiracy became alarmingly clear. The ambush had been no random act of violence. It was a calculated move to dismantle Cassian's power and expose the secrets that bound him to Leora. As the distant wail of sirens began to punctuate the night, the realization dawned upon both, allies and enemies alike. The world they inhabited was on the precipice of irreversible change. Leora cradled Cassian's head gently, her resolve hardening with each ragged breath he took. The scars of the past, the betrayals that had festered in the shadows for so long, were now colliding with the present in a maelstrom of blood and sorrow. She whispered promises of protection and of unyielding support, even as uncertainty swirled around them. "We will rise from this darkness," she vowed softly, "and we will reclaim the future that is rightfully ours." As the rain continued to fall, washing away the remnants of violence and despair, Leora's eyes scanned the encroaching darkness. Each droplet carried the weight of unspoken secrets and the hope of redemption. The ambush had not only exposed the vulnerabilities of their bond, but had also ignited a fierce determination to unearth every hidden truth, to confront every deceiver lurking in the shadows. In the interplay of light and darkness, love and betrayal, Leora and Cassian found themselves bound together by forces far beyond their control. With the storm still raging and danger ever present, the new chapter of their intertwined destinies had only just begun. The revelations of family secrets, the calculated treachery of rivals, and the unwavering commitment to a future forged in unity, all converged into a singular, undeniable truth. The battle for redemption was only a heartbeat away from erupting into chaos. In that decisive moment, with the echo of conflict still resonating in the night air, and every heartbeat a testament to survival, one thing was certain. This was merely the beginning of a tumultuous journey that would challenge every fiber of their being. In the aftermath of the ambush, the city of New Orleans seemed to hold its breath. The rain had ceased, leaving glistening streets that mirrored the turmoil simmering beneath the surface of both mortal and supernatural realms. Cassian's estate, once a bastion of formidable strength, now bore the scars of treachery. As emergency services whisked away the injured and investigators combed through the remnants of chaos, Leora found herself thrust into a maelstrom of uncertainty and resolve. In the secluded safe house where she had sheltered Cassian through the violent ordeal, Leora's mind raced with plans and questions. Cassian lay unconscious, bandaged and guarded by a loyal few. The fragile hope in his eyes when he'd whispered, promises of unity, now mingled with the pain of betrayal. Determined not to let despair overtake her, Leora sat at a small wooden desk cluttered with Mara's aged manuscripts and newly uncovered family relics. Each document seemed to pulse with the legacy of generations, urging her to rise and confront the gathering storm. A knock at the door startled her. With cautious steps, she opened it to find Darius, Cassian's steadfast confidant, his normally impassive face marked with urgency. "Leora, we must act swiftly," he said in a low tone. The ambush was not isolated. Elias's faction is mobilizing, the Council of Elders is in turmoil, and whispers of rebellion are rippling through the clans. His words hung heavily in the charged silence of the room. Leora's eyes narrowed. "How much time do we have?" she asked, voice steady despite the rising anxiety. Darius hesitated before replying. "Soon. If we do not respond now, our enemies will seize this moment of vulnerability to dismantle Cassian's authority once and for all." The gravity of his words set her heart pounding as she recognized that the future of not only Cassian's legacy, but also the balance between the human and supernatural worlds, rested on their next moves. Determined to fortify their position, Leora convened a secret meeting with those loyal to Cassian. In a dimly lit back room of an old jazz bar, a sanctuary where whispered conversations could easily blend with the sultry strains of a saxophone, Leora, Darius, Mara, and several trusted warriors gathered around a scarred wooden table. Maps, ancient texts, and recent intelligence reports were spread before them. The atmosphere was tense. Every eye flickered with the knowledge that betrayal could be lurking among even the closest allies. Mara's voice, though quiet, carried a weight of wisdom beyond years. "Our enemy seeks to exploit every weakness," she cautioned. "Elias knows that exposing Leora's heritage will fracture our unity. We must protect her identity while preparing for the inevitable confrontation." A murmur of assent rippled through the group. One of the warriors, a stoic figure known as Jarek, spoke up. "We have long relied on secrecy and the strength of our bonds. Now those very bonds must be our shield and our sword." As plans were laid out, Leora's thoughts wandered back to the enigmatic passage in the old library, a passage that hinted at an ancient ritual of unity and renewal. Could there be a way to not only repel Elias's assault, but also to harness the dormant powers within her lineage? The idea, both perilous and promising, flickered like a candle in the darkness of her mind. "If we can unlock the secrets of the ancestral covenant," she mused aloud, "perhaps we can summon the strength to overturn the betrayal that now threatens us." Darius nodded slowly, his eyes reflecting the burden of leadership. "Our ancestors believed that in times of great strife, the union of heart and heritage could invoke a power that transcends our mortal and supernatural limits. It is a risk, but one that might offer us salvation." The conversation grew animated, with each loyal ally weighing the merits and perils of invoking such ancient rites. In the midst of the strategic debate, Leora felt a surge of determination. The secrets of her blood were not a curse, but a beacon guiding her toward redemption. Outside, the night deepened as shadows lengthened along the narrow alleyways. In the city's underbelly, Elias was not idle. In a grim, repurposed warehouse, his conspirators gathered once more, their faces obscured by masks that reflected their inner malice. Elias, his eyes glinting with calculated ambition, addressed the group in a tone that brooked no dissent. "We have struck a blow, but the true war has only begun," he declared. "We will reveal Leora's true lineage to the Council. Once the truth is exposed, doubt will spread like wildfire, and Cassian's grip on power will shatter." His voice resonated with the cold certainty of a man who had long plotted in the shadows. Back at the safe house, as Leora pored over the ancient texts, a sudden realization struck her. One of the manuscripts, a brittle, leather-bound volume with cryptic symbols embossed on its cover, hinted at a long-forgotten ceremony known only as the Rite of the Lunar Bond. According to legend, this rite could awaken latent supernatural abilities and seal the bond between those chosen by fate. With renewed hope, Leora resolved that this ancient rite might be the key to fortifying her alliance with Cassian and safeguarding both their futures. "We must prepare for the ritual," she said firmly to Darius, her eyes burning with resolve. "If we harness this power, we can stand against Elias and his treacherous allies." Plans swiftly took shape. Under the guise of midnight meetings and secretive gatherings in the hidden sanctuaries of New Orleans, Leora and her allies began to assemble the necessary elements for the Rite of the Lunar Bond. Ritual components, rare herbs, ancient relics, and sacred symbols were gathered. With precision, Mara led the scholarly efforts, deciphering the ancient verses and ensuring that every step of the ritual was executed flawlessly. Darius, ever the protector, marshaled a discreet group of warriors to guard their movements and intercept any attempts by Elias's faction to sabotage their preparations. In a moment of quiet reflection beneath a sprawling oak in a secluded park, Leora allowed herself a fleeting pause. The ancient tree, its gnarled branches reaching skyward like silent sentinels, seemed to whisper secrets of resilience and renewal. "My ancestors faced darkness far greater than what we see today," she murmured, feeling the pulse of a power older than time stir within her. They endured betrayal, loss, and pain, but they also knew the strength of unity. "I will honor their legacy by standing firm, even if it means walking through the flames of our past." The night of the rite arrived with a palpable intensity. Under a full, luminous moon, Leora, accompanied by a select group of trusted allies, journeyed to an ancient clearing deep within a wooded preserve on the outskirts of the city. The clearing, ringed by towering cypress trees and bathed in the silvery glow of moonlight, exuded an aura of otherworldly calm. Here, away from the prying eyes of both rival clans and mortal authorities, the stage was set for a transformation that could alter the course of destiny. As Leora stepped into the center of the clearing, she was met by Cassian, now recovered enough to stand, though still weakened by his injuries. His presence was magnetic, a beacon of both authority and vulnerability. "I never doubted your strength, Leora," he whispered, his voice both tender and fierce. "Tonight, we reclaim our destiny together." His words resonated deeply within her, reinforcing the bond that had blossomed amid adversity. The ritual began with a solemn incantation led by Mara. Soft chants echoed through the trees as each participant took their designated place around the circle. Candles flickered and shadows danced, merging with the natural luminescence of the moon. Leora's heart pounded in sync with the rhythm of the ancient verses, each syllable weaving together the threads of her lineage and the promise of redemption. As the ritual reached its zenith, a brilliant, ethereal light enveloped her, a physical manifestation of the dormant power now awakening within her soul. For a brief, transcendent moment, time seemed to stand still. The boundaries between the supernatural and the human blurred, as if the very fabric of reality was being rewritten. By the surge of ancestral energy, in that luminous embrace, Leora felt the weight of generations lift from her shoulders. Her eyes, alight with newfound strength, met Cassian's with a silent vow of unwavering commitment. "We are more than the sum of our past," she declared, softly, her voice echoing with the power of the ritual. "We are the future, forged by the flames of betrayal and the promise of redemption." But even as the rite bestowed upon them a fleeting taste of transcendent power, the specter of danger loomed ever closer. Unbeknownst to Leora and her circle, Elias had tracked their movements with the precision of a predator stalking its prey. In the distance, through the dense thicket bordering the clearing, the unmistakable sound of crunching leaves and muffled footsteps signaled the approach of intruders. The air grew tense, charged with an imminent threat that disrupted the fragile serenity of the ritual's aftermath. In the final moments before the encroaching darkness could shatter their renewed unity, Cassian's voice cut through the silence. "Hold fast," he commanded, his tone laced with both authority and a hint of fear. "We have reclaimed our power tonight, but the enemy is near. We must now prepare to defend what we have restored." The assembled allies exchanged anxious glances as the shadows stirred at the periphery of the clearing. With the ancient rite freshly imprinted in their beings and a renewed sense of purpose igniting their hearts, Leora and Cassian led their loyal defenders to fortify the perimeter. The clearing, once a sanctuary of ancestral reverence, transformed in an instant into a bastion of resistance. Every rustle in the underbrush, every fleeting shadow among the trees, carried the promise of impending confrontation. In hushed whispers and determined glares, plans were quickly redrawn to counter the looming threat. A sudden, piercing cry shattered the tense silence. It came from the eastern edge of the clearing, an alarm that signaled the breach of their defenses. In that critical moment, as the moon's silvery glow bathed the battleground, Leora felt the full weight of her newfound power surge within her. Clutching an amulet that had been passed down through her family, she stepped forward, eyes blazing with determination. "We will not falter," she vowed, her voice rising above the growing clamor. "Our ancestors fought for unity, and tonight, we honor their legacy by standing as one." As chaos erupted at the perimeter, with rival assailants emerging from the darkness, Leora's heart pounded like a war drum. The supernatural clash was swift and fierce, the air alive with the sounds of snarls, clashes of ancient weapons, and the resolute battle cries of those determined to protect their legacy. In the melee, every strike, every parry, became a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who believed in redemption and unity. Amid the fierce struggle, Leora locked eyes with a masked assailant. For a fraction of a second, time slowed as she recognized something familiar. A glimmer of doubt, perhaps even regret, beneath the hardened features. The encounter stirred within her a conflicted compassion. Yet, with the roar of battle echoing around them, there was no time for hesitation. With a resolute cry, she moved to disarm the foe, every move fueled by the combined might of her ancestral power and her unyielding will to protect Cassian and the future they had fought so hard to reclaim. As the clash continued, alliances were tested and hidden loyalties emerged. Amid the chaos, Darius and Jarek coordinated their defense with precision, their teamwork a vivid reminder that unity was their greatest strength. The battlefield became a swirling tableau of light and shadow, the ethereal glow of the lunar rite intermingling with the raw, tangible energy of conflict. In the thick of the turmoil, Leora's mind churned with thoughts of betrayal and the promise of renewal. Every parry and every counterstrike was not just a physical act. It was a declaration that her destiny would not be dictated by the treacheries of the past. With each moment of defiance, the power of her lineage grew stronger, intertwining with the fierce determination that had brought her this far. The crescendo of the battle built to a fever pitch. Just as it seemed that the forces of Elias might overwhelm their defenses, a sudden shift occurred. The masked assailants began to falter under the relentless onslaught of Cassian's leadership and Leora's radiant determination. A wave of clarity swept through the combatants, as if the ritual's transformative energy had bolstered their spirits beyond mortal limits. Yet, as the tide of battle began to turn, a piercing wail echoed from the northern edge of the clearing, a sound both inhuman and heartbreakingly mournful. In that moment, time itself seemed to pause, and every combatant instinctively turned toward the source of the cry. Leora's heart sank as she recognized the voice, a voice that carried the weight of a centuries-old sorrow and a personal vendetta that could shatter the fragile hope they had just ignited. "Who?" she gasped, her eyes wide with a mixture of dread and disbelief. The answer lay shrouded in mystery, a revelation that promised to upend everything they had fought for. As the echo of the cry faded into the night, an ominous chill crept into the clearing, and every heartbeat pulsed with the anticipation of an answer that could change the course of their intertwined destinies. In that heart-stopping moment of collective uncertainty, when every soul present held its breath in fearful anticipation, the fate of Cassian, Leora, and the entire alliance hung in a precarious balance. The ancient power of the lunar rite surged one final time, illuminating the clearing in a radiant glow that both calmed and warned. As the combatants braced themselves for the revelation that would follow, Leora's eyes shimmered with determination and an unspoken plea for redemption. With the night poised on the brink of revelation and the enemy's intentions still veiled in darkness, every element of their shared destiny trembled with the promise of transformation and the threat of irrevocable loss. The battlefield, now a stage for the ultimate confrontation, awaited the arrival of a truth long suppressed, a truth that could either mend the bonds of loyalty or fracture them beyond repair. Eclipse opened the next chapter of their harrowing saga, as the supernatural battleground continued to churn with raw emotion and shifting allegiances. The mysterious wail that had frozen every heartbeat in the clearing now resonated as a prelude to revelations that would dismantle long-held illusions and reforge the bonds of destiny. Amid the chaos of clashing forces and the spectral remnants of the lunar rite, Cassian, Leora, and their allies braced themselves for an unraveling that none could have foreseen. In the moments following the cry, a tense hush fell over the combatants. The previously relentless melee gave way to a disconcerting pause, as every warrior and conspirator alike strained to identify the source of that mournful sound. For Leora, it was a summons from the past, a call that carried the sorrow of generations and the weight of secrets that had been buried deep within her family's legacy. "That voice," she whispered, her eyes searching the darkness. "It sounds so familiar, like a lament from a lost soul." Cassian's gaze hardened with a mixture of determination and dread. "We cannot ignore this," he murmured. "It is a signal, either a warning or an invitation to confront the truths we have long denied." His words, filled with the gravity of leadership and the pain of unresolved history, resonated deeply with the assembled allies. Darius and Jarek exchanged uncertain glances, while Mara's scholarly eyes shone with the anticipation of unearthing another piece of the ancient puzzle. As the defenders regrouped near the flickering boundary of light and shadow, a figure began to emerge from the dense woodland fringe. Cloaked in a tattered garment that bore cryptic symbols reminiscent of those found in Leora's family manuscripts, the figure moved with a hesitant grace that belied a past burdened by sorrow. The intruder's features gradually sharpened under the moonlight, revealing the face of an older woman with eyes that held both anguish and fierce wisdom, a visage that stirred a torrent of conflicting memories in Leora's heart. "Mother?" Leora's voice trembled with a blend of disbelief and hope. The revelation was as stunning as it was implausible, a long-forgotten presence from a past shrouded in mystery, presumed lost to the annals of time. The woman's lips curled into a bittersweet smile as she stepped forward, each movement laden with the echoes of bygone eras. "Leora, my child, you have awakened the truth that binds us," she intoned softly, her voice resonating with a timbre that bridged the gap between the mortal and the supernatural. A stunned silence fell over the clearing as allies and foes alike processed the unfolding revelation. Cassian's brow furrowed as he stepped protectively beside Leora, his instincts warring between suspicion and the magnetic pull of fate. "Who are you?" he demanded, his tone laced with caution. The woman's gaze did not waver. "I am Helena, once a guardian of the ancient covenant, a role that was bestowed upon me until treachery tore my world apart." Helena's appearance was as enigmatic as the legends that had woven through Leora's family history. She spoke of a legacy of guardianship, entrusted to safeguard the fragile boundary between the human realm and the supernatural. As she recounted the tragic events that led to her forced disappearance, a tapestry of betrayal and redemption unfurled before the eyes of those gathered. Helena revealed that the sacred covenant was not simply a relic of the past, but a living, breathing force that had chosen Leora as its successor, a role that now placed her at the heart of the impending conflict between warring factions. Helena's words carried the weight of painful memories and the wisdom of hard-earned experience. There was a time, she began, her voice trembling with the intensity of recollection, when our world was united by trust and honor. But ambition and treachery sowed discord among us, and I was cast aside, exiled into the shadows. It was my sacrifice that allowed our covenant to survive, hidden until the day the rightful heir would return. Her eyes locked with Leora's, seeking to impart both comfort and urgency. You, my dear, are that heir. The blood in your veins is the seal of the ancient promise, the promise that can restore the balance and vanquish the darkness that threatens our future. In that revelatory moment, the battlefield's dynamics shifted dramatically. The masked assailants, who moments before had been driven by Elias's ruthless ambition, now faltered as the truth began to pierce the veil of their deception. Elias himself, who had orchestrated much of the conflict with a cunning that bordered on malevolence, recoiled as he watched the reunion unfold. His eyes flashed with an amalgam of fury and disbelief. Had his plans, which hinged on the exploitation of Leora's supposed hidden origins, been so thoroughly undermined by the emergence of Helena? The tension in the clearing escalated as Helena continued, Elias's machinations are not of my doing. He is but a pawn, a misguided soul whose thirst for power blinded him to the sacred duties we were meant to uphold. His betrayal of the covenant has led us to this precipice, but it is not too late to reclaim what was lost. Her words struck a chord with many, stirring a latent hope even among those who had long resigned themselves to the shadow of chaos. Cassian, still standing guard beside Leora, felt a tumult of emotion surge within him. The revelation of Helena's existence did not merely rewrite the history of their conflict, it redefined the very foundation upon which his power had been built. The intricate interplay of loyalty, legacy, and betrayal that had characterized his leadership was now being re-examined in the light of this newfound truth. If what you say is true, he said cautiously, then the path ahead may yet offer redemption, for our people, for our families, and for the covenant itself. His voice, though tempered with skepticism, bore the unmistakable tone of a man willing to embrace the difficult road toward reconciliation. As the survivors of the ambush and the assembled allies absorbed this staggering revelation, Helena moved to reveal the final piece of the puzzle, a clandestine scroll, carefully preserved over decades, that chronicled the true nature of the covenant and the role of its heir. With deliberate reverence, she unfurled the ancient parchment before Leora's tear-filled eyes. The script, imbued with an almost mystical luminescence, detailed the rite of remembrance, a long-forgotten ritual that was said to not only restore the fractured alliance among the supernatural clans, but also to purge the lingering stains of betrayal. According to the scroll, the ritual required the union of both blood and spirit, a melding of past and present that could cleanse the wounds inflicted by centuries of treachery. Helena's revelation carried profound implications. It explained why the lunar rite had resonated so powerfully during their recent ordeal, and why Leora had felt an irresistible pull toward the secrets of her lineage. This covenant, Helena declared, was forged in the crucible of sacrifice and sealed by the blood of those who dared to dream of unity. It is a power that transcends the petty vendettas of mortals and immortals alike, a power that can restore the broken bonds between clans and guide us toward a future where redemption is not just an aspiration, but a reality. The gathered allies, now united by a shared purpose that eclipsed former divisions, began to rally around this newfound mission. Even those who had once harbored doubts about Leora's place in the grand design of things found their skepticism melting away in the glow of Helena's conviction. In hushed murmurs and determined nods, plans were redrawn. The time had come not only to fend off Elias's treachery, but to embark on a journey that would lead them to the heart of the ancient covenant, a journey that promised both peril and the possibility of salvation. Meanwhile, Elias, his ambitions unraveling before his eyes, withdrew into the darker recesses of the forest. His carefully constructed web of deceit had been shattered by the undeniable truth that now stood in the clearing. In a moment of bitter introspection, he realized that his own past, a past filled with betrayals he had committed in the name of power, was catching up to him. The haunting cry that had signaled the arrival of Helena was, in fact, a harbinger of his inevitable reckoning. In the silence that followed, His presence became almost spectral, a ghost of ambition that would have to face the consequences of his misdeeds. As the moon continued its silent vigil overhead, the newly united allies, led by Leora, Cassian, and Helena, set their sights on the next crucial step, the rite of remembrance. This ritual, destined to be the fulcrum upon which the fate of both the supernatural and human worlds would pivot, required not only immense courage, but a willingness to confront every lingering wound of the past. With solemn determination, they gathered the sacred relics and ancient texts that Helena had safeguarded for so long. Every artifact, every incantation seemed to vibrate with the promise of healing, a promise that, if fulfilled, could reverse the centuries of discord that had plagued their kind. In a quiet clearing away from prying eyes and the chaos of recent battles, the trio prepared for the rite under the luminous canopy of a star-strewn sky. The air was electric with anticipation, as each participant took their place in a meticulously arranged circle. Helena's experienced hands guided Leora through the intricate steps of the ritual, whispering the age-old verses that would awaken the latent powers of their blood. Cassian, though battle-hardened and scarred by recent events, stood resolute, his presence a pillar of strength in the face of uncertainty. As the rite commenced, the night seemed to pulse with a heartbeat of its own. The ancient incantations resonated in a language lost to time, stirring the latent magic within each soul present. The celestial alignment above the clearing cast shimmering patterns of light upon their faces, weaving an ephemeral tapestry of hope and renewal. For Leora, this was a moment of profound transformation, a juncture where her personal journey converged with the collective destiny of her people. Every word spoken and every ritual gesture carried the echoes of countless ancestors, each contributing to a legacy that sought to mend the fractured tapestry of loyalty and love. Yet, even as the ritual progressed and the promise of redemption grew tangible, an undercurrent of tension persisted. The shadows beyond the circle, once mere spectators, seemed to coalesce into forms that hinted at lingering dissent. For some, the past was not so easily forgotten, and the wounds inflicted by betrayal festered in the dark recesses of memory. The air crackled with the anticipation of an impending climax, as if the very fabric of destiny was about to be irrevocably altered. In that charged atmosphere, Leora felt a surge of empowerment. With every heartbeat, she embraced the fullness of her heritage, the amalgamation of mortal resilience and supernatural prowess that had defined her lineage for generations. "I am ready," she declared, her voice steady and resolute, echoing across the silent expanse of the clearing. "I will reclaim our legacy and restore the covenant, no matter the cost." Her declaration was met with a chorus of determined voices, each pledge a reaffirmation of their collective commitment to transcending the cycle of betrayal and despair. As the final notes of the incantation reverberated into the night, a luminous force enveloped the circle, a radiant convergence of past, present, and future. The boundaries that had long separated adversaries began to dissolve in the glow of newfound unity. In that transcendent moment, every soul present felt the stirring of something ancient and indomitable, a promise that the scars of old betrayals could indeed be healed through the power of forgiveness, sacrifice, and relentless hope. The rite of remembrance reached its zenith with a cascade of shimmering light that bathed the clearing in an ethereal glow. It was a sight that transcended mortal comprehension, a vivid manifestation of redemption that left no doubt in anyone's mind that a new era was dawning. In that profound silence, as the light gradually subsided and the first whispers of dawn crept over the horizon, one immutable truth shone through. The journey toward healing and unity had only just begun. Under a sky streaked with the delicate blush of early dawn, the survivors of a battle that had shaken both mortal and supernatural realms gathered in the ruins of what once was Cassian's ancestral estate. The air was thick with the residue of magic and the bittersweet aftertaste of conflict, a silence punctuated only by the soft murmur of the wind and the occasional measured footsteps of those still wary of the fragile peace. In this final chapter, the weight of centuries and the consequences of betrayal converged in one fateful moment that would either mend the fractured bonds of their world or shatter them forever. As Leora stood before the gathering, her eyes burning with the inherited fire of her ancestors and the resolve forged through endless trials, She recounted the revelations that had come to light since Helena's dramatic arrival. "We have unearthed secrets buried deep in our lineage," she declared, her voice resonating with both command and compassion. "Not only have we witnessed the consequences of our past, betrayals that have driven us apart, but we have also discovered that redemption lies not in endless vengeance, but in the courage to rebuild and forgive." Cassian, standing resolute by her side, bore the marks of both physical and emotional scars. His gaze, once filled with a hardened resolve, now shimmered with the vulnerability of a leader who had dared to hope against the dark currents of treachery. "For too long," he admitted softly. "Our people have been ensnared in a cycle of retribution, where loyalty is pitted against ambition, and the ancient covenant is twisted to suit personal vendettas. Today, we choose a different path, a path where unity triumphs over discord." The assembly, a motley congregation of werewolves, guardians, and even a few courageous humans who had risked everything to support the covenant, listened with bated breath. Among them, Darius and Jarek exchanged glances that spoke of both cautious optimism and the burden of uncertain futures. Mara, whose wisdom had been the beacon in their darkest hours, stepped forward to unfurl the final pages of the clandestine scroll Helena had safeguarded. The parchment, now glowing faintly in the light of dawn, chronicled a long-forgotten ritual, the rite of final accord. Helena, her presence as ethereal as a memory, yet as tangible as the trembling earth beneath their feet, explained the essence of the ritual. "The rite of final accord," she intoned, "was conceived not as a means to vanquish our enemies with force, but to bind our wounds with understanding. It calls upon the collective strength of our bloodline, urging us to release the hatred that has long poisoned our hearts and embrace a future born of forgiveness and collaboration." Her words, laden with both sorrow and hope, rippled through the crowd like a gentle yet insistent tide. As preparations for the ritual began, tensions that had simmered during the recent battles gave way to a solemn unity. In a spacious, crumbling atrium, where fractured stained glass painted shifting mosaics upon ancient stone, the ritual circle was reformed. Here, every participant placed their hands upon a central relic, a time-worn talisman that had belonged to the very first guardian of the covenant. The relic, infused with an aura of otherworldly warmth, pulsed in harmony with the hearts of those gathered around it. Leora, feeling the ancestral power surge within her veins once more, led the invocation. "Let the burdens of our past be lifted," she chanted, her voice echoing in a cadence that seemed to merge with the rustling leaves outside. "Let the echoes of betrayal be silenced by the promise of a new dawn. We call upon the strength of our forebears and the purity of our intentions to guide us toward unity." Each syllable carried a weight that transcended time, binding the present moment with the luminous hope of a redeemed future. Just as the incantation reached its apex, a startling ripple of energy coursed through the assembled crowd, a surge so intense that it momentarily blurred the boundaries between the physical and the spiritual. In that charged instant, the relic emitted a brilliant flash of light, and a figure materialized in the center of the circle. Not a phantom of wrath, but a serene, luminous presence that seemed to embody the very essence of the covenant. The apparition, with eyes that mirrored the infinite depths of compassion, and a voice as soft as the morning breeze, spoke. "I am the embodiment of our collective hope, a reminder that even in our darkest hours, the light of forgiveness can heal all wounds." For a heartbeat, time itself appeared to pause. The revelation stunned both allies and former adversaries alike. Elias, who had lurked in the shadows, his ambitions once a beacon of discord, found himself overwhelmed by the palpable force of redemption. His eyes, once burning with the desire for unchecked power, now shimmered with the dawning realization that his path of treachery had led only to isolation and despair. In that silent moment of reckoning, he sank to his knees, the weight of his misdeeds anchoring him to the cold ground. I was wrong," he whispered, voice trembling with regret. His confession, unexpected and raw, was met with an amalgam of shock and cautious compassion from the gathered assembly. Cassian stepped forward, extending a hand toward Elias, a gesture laden with both the scars of past betrayals and the hope for a future rebuilt on forgiveness. "Every soul has the capacity to change," he pronounced, his tone firm yet tender. "Our covenant is not one of exclusion, but of healing. Embrace the truth of your past, and together we shall forge a path that honors both justice and mercy." The offer of reconciliation, as audacious as it was heartfelt, rippled through the crowd, shifting the energy from one of retribution to one of restorative unity. As the rite of final accord advanced, Helena and Mara guided everyone through the final sequences of the ritual. They urged the participants to release all grudges and to visualize the scars of betrayal dissolving into light. One by one, the warriors, guardians, and even the reluctant dissenters closed their eyes, letting the ancient incantations wash over them. The relic's glow intensified, and in its radiance, each soul present experienced a personal vision of forgiveness, a cathartic moment where the weight of old wounds was lifted, replaced by the promise of rebirth. In a climactic surge of energy, the relic's light burst forth in a dazzling display of luminescence, illuminating the atrium and the faces of every gathered being. It was as if the very heavens had conspired to witness this pivotal moment of transformation. The boundaries that had long divided clans, generations, and even species blurred into insignificance, replaced by a single all-encompassing truth. Redemption was possible when hearts dared to open and wounds were tended with. Kare, Leora, standing at the center of this unfolding miracle, felt a surge of both relief and profound responsibility. In her eyes, there was the gentle glow of reconciliation, a reflection of the journey from despair to hope. "Today, we have not only mended the rift that tore our world apart," she proclaimed, her voice rising in a harmonious crescendo, "but we have also ignited a flame that will forever guide us on the path of unity and love. Our destiny is no longer dictated by the sins of the past, but by the promises we choose to keep for the future." In the wake of the ritual's culmination, a palpable change settled over the assembly. Former enemies embraced as newfound allies. Words of regret were met with forgiving nods, and the air vibrated with the promise of a collective future built on mutual respect and shared purpose. The ancient covenant, once a source of division, had been reborn as a symbol of hope, a living testament to the possibility of transformation even amidst the deepest scars of betrayal. As the first rays of the sun broke over the horizon, bathing the estate in a gentle golden light, Cassian and Leora stood side by side, the relic now a quiet beacon of their renewed legacy. Helena, her mission fulfilled, faded slowly into the ether, leaving behind a lingering sense of guidance and reassurance. Elias, still trembling with remorse, looked up with tearful eyes, silently vowing to embark on the arduous path of redemption. In that transcendent moment, the true power of forgiveness was revealed. It was not an erasure of the past, but a courageous acknowledgement of its lessons, a promise to honor the memories of those who had suffered while forging a future that celebrated the best of what they could become. Every participant in the rite felt this truth resonate within them, a unifying pulse that echoed the heartbeat of their shared destiny. The transformation was undeniable. The fractured alliances were now reformed into a resilient tapestry of trust and empathy. The ancient wounds that had once bled with the venom of betrayal were now healing under the gentle caress of newfound understanding. And in the midst of it all, Leora's journey, from an uncertain, reluctant bride to a herald of hope, had come full circle, culminating in a revelation that was as unexpected as it was life-changing. As the gathering slowly dispersed into the light of the new day, the echoes of the rite lingered, a silent promise that this moment of rebirth was but the beginning of a long journey toward true unity. The challenges that lay ahead would be many, and the scars of the past might never vanish entirely. Yet in their hearts, every being present carried the irrefutable conviction that the bonds they had reformed would endure, guided by the everlasting power of forgiveness and the strength of their shared legacy. With the morning sun rising higher, casting its warm glow over the estate and the rejuvenated faces of its inhabitants, a gentle breeze carried a final whisper of hope. Every step taken from that day forward would be a tribute to the transformation that had just occurred, a step toward a future where the echoes of pain were replaced by the harmonious notes of redemption and unity. In this renewed era, the promise of forgiveness, the triumph of compassion, and the courage to confront the past had become the very foundation upon which a new legacy was built. And so, as the last vestiges of night gave way to the radiant light of day, the world that had once been marred by betrayal and despair now embraced the extraordinary gift of second chances. The journey had been long and fraught with peril, but in that singular, unforgettable moment of reconciliation, every soul present discovered that even in the most broken of hearts, there lay a spark of divine hope, an enduring beacon, guiding them toward a future defined not by their scars but by their shared triumph over darkness.